All right, it is noon, so we'll start with roll call as typical and go on to the approval of last month's minutes. Any changes or corrections?
No.
Motion to approve is in order.
I'll move for approval, Ray.
Haynes will second. Oh, okay, you got it.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. On to approval of the water department claims. Questions?
I have a question on 57562. Annual alarm monitoring for Cypress Garage. I don't know what a Cypress Garage is.
It's the street that the garage is on. This is Cypress right here. This little cross street, yeah.
Okay.
So that's the utility garage. We have alarms on that building, this building, and then two different systems across the street. So that's just for that one. Intrusion alarms.
Just information request there on 57540. What hydrant chains are those? The ones that hold
Yep.
the cap on the?
They connect the cap to the hydrant, the little silver chains. I don't know why I can't get this, but yeah. Yep.
Silver. Holy cow!
That's probably 100 sets or so.
But
yeah,
just
right.
Not replaced under preventive maintenance.
That and when we have the contract, which we didn't have last year, but he didn't come in. We tried to, but when they redo all the paint on the hydrants, we generally redo those chains because they end up kind of crappy afterwards. You know, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also this time of year they're doing a lot of hydrant maintenance because they've got time to do it. So they make note throughout the year which ones aren't operating well, which ones look, whatever, and they take them apart and they kind of rebuild them. And when they do that, they'll put new chains on if needed. Yeah.
Any other questions on water? If not, we'll go on to sewage department claims. Questions are in order. No questions. Let's go on to utilities.
Stormwater.
Say storm order. I'm sorry.
Yep. Just have a question right at the bottom where you have the vac truck purchase and 114,000. That's an internal transfer?
Yep.
No check, is that how that,
Yeah.
ACH or something?
Well, it's inside the same software even, so it's just an journal entry across, yeah. Yeah, we bought the one from sewer into stormwater, when we buy the new one in.
Okay, that's how that works, all right.
Any other questions on stormwater? And then fiber. Pretty basic.
Pretty basic.
So a motion to approve all 4 sets of claims is in order.
So move, Nachman. Haynes will second.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
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 Same sign. Motion carried. All right. Update on the rate adjustment.
Yeah, so I put the memo from last time in there with a couple corrections. What we were running into with the then standard simplified rate case, which is this SRC that we refer to, was looking ahead at the fact that the next time, because you have to have a full rate case within 5 years, to do a simplified rate case. So this was the last simplified one we're going to be able to do. And then the deadline came around to the next year. So in other words, 4.5 was the simplified rate case for last year, and 8.0 is the simplified rate case for this year. So didn't get in ahead of the 8.0, the 4.5, but the PSC is recognizing the inflationary rates here, and they are now processing simplified rate cases at 8%, not 4.5%. Now, the reason I put it in there like this is just to show you the difference between what had been acted on in January and what we're gonna need to do now, because we can't go back to that one, because once you're in the certain year, it's just how it is. But I think the good news here is that given where they're calculating the simplified rate case, when we go in for our next full rate case, it would have been a real doozy, I think. And so even though this is more, and it's another little, hit to the ratepayers, it is across 3 utilities anyway, that I think that the next hit, when we did a full rate case, would have been really bad with them recognizing that 8% is appropriate for this year. And had we done the 4.5, we would have just had a bigger one in the years ahead. And since we're trying to make sure we stay on top of this, you could look at this as either, well, it's unfortunate that we don't have the 4.5, but we could also say it's fortunate that we don't have 20% rate case coming. And I don't know that to be true, but no matter what it is, it'll be less with this increase now. So a couple tough years here on the utility side with inflation, but 8% kind of is what we're seeing across the board with things like, CPI, COLA, that kind of thing. So there it is. I guess what I'm seeking is kind of action to adopt this versus what we did in January, because this is what's out there now.
So in January, we approved the 4.5%.
Yeah, in January is the 4.5, and there's a little bit of a process you go through to get it filed, and we're right on the cusp of that. Didn't make it, and so getting into the next calendar year, they go with the new rate, and so the 4.5 isn't available anymore. It's now the 8. But we wouldn't have been able to do both, so we couldn't do 4.5 and then the next year. So rather than anything in the 4.5 year, we're proposing the 8% for rate adjustment that could potentially happen somewhere around May 1st now.
So that's the easiest way to explain the increase, is that it's covering the 24-month year period rather than a 12-month period.
Well, you could look at it that way because that one was for the previous year and this is for the next. Yeah. Yep.
And then it kicks in May 1st, you said.
I got to look at the timeline because there's this interesting thing where it has to be 45 days after the day you publish, and we're in the middle of March. So it's either going to be May or June 1st.
Okay.
For the May or June billing. Yep.
This is a big increase. And I'm just like, how does the utility prepare people for, right? Because you're kind of set, right? You turn on as much water as you normally do. How do we prepare people to conserve more so they don't have to pay as much?
Well,
right?
I understand why you say it's a big increase, but for the first time that you've been on the commission, and most everybody on the commission except for me, we never faced 8.5%, almost 9% inflation. So when you say it's a big increase, what are you comparing it to? And so if you're going to the grocery store and you're paying almost 9% more for a can of soup, all of a sudden something as basic as the water coming out of your faucet is coming in at half of what inflation is. In my perspective, if you compare it to that, it sounds like a bargain.
Well, no, and I know I'm not, but I'm just like thinking if you are right, because when you are in poverty, you can get assistance, and if you're right at that breaking point where you can't get any assistance, you're either going to have to eat less, take less shower, like something's got to give. And so that's why I'm wondering, like, for that working poor segment of the population, like, maybe it's not our responsibility to think about that, but like, how do we,
the
You're just
state
gonna
and
say, okay, folks, here's the rate increase, and,
I think that the best answer I can give you is that, you know, we make every attempt we can to make sure we're efficient, you know, and beyond that, there's a lot of things that go into it. Where something's gotta give, to your point, the things that give at that point are large projects, capital improvements, things like that. And when we slow down on those, we increase the time frame that assets need to survive from slightly over 100 to back to, you know, we were operating under a situation where we're expecting 300 to 400 year lifespan. So, you know, we're sticking with the pace of reconstruction that we established 5-6 years ago now. To Paul's point, you know, it's pretty commensurate with what we're seeing everywhere else. So, to be honest, construction costs have gone up over 8%. You know, 8% reflects kind of what we see very broadly across, you know, maybe the economy and everything. Construction industry is considerably more than that. So we're doing what we can to keep our head above water, I guess, is the
sure.
the point.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So then this theoretically is in place for 2 years, and then you said we can't do the simplified rate case again, and it'll be
No,
something
actually,
different?
no, it's not necessarily that it has to be in place for 2 years. When you file for a simplified rate case, you have to have had your previous rate in place for 12 months, and you have to have had a full rate case, which is very time-consuming, expensive, and lengthy, time-wise. You need to have had that within the last 5 years. So, as of this increase, we are no longer eligible to file for a simplified rate case because we will be beyond that 5-year period from when we last had a full rate case. So this is the last simplified before we go in for a full, and they do something far more complicated than a 8% across the board increase. It'll be adjusting all the different rates for different classes, the standard fixed rate versus variable for consumptive rates, stuff like that. So it'll be pretty in-depth next time we do it. And that may be, you know, yeah, 1.5, 2 years out, whatever.
Okay,
Another
so
thing that we've done
that would happen 2 years out. All right.
Another thing that we've done in the past, and we haven't for quite some time, so I'm not suggesting we postpone any action on this at all, but put in next month's packet the history of what the other municipalities in our central Wisconsin area, history is the wrong word, comparison.
Yeah, comparison.
Because we historically have been significantly lower on all of our rates than Wisconsin Rapids, Wausau, Marshfield, and we haven't revisited that in a long time, so we'll just take a look at that as an FYI next meeting.
Yep.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the 8% increase as explained by Joel.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
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 All same sign, motion carried. All right, Eric, water supply and distribution.
Good afternoon. The only thing to add, outside what's printed is this week our new GIS tech position starts. We had a vacancy back in December, so that's exciting. We've got a backlog of GIS stuff for him to work on right away, so he'll start this week, pending all the physical. And then, at the end of the month, our every 5-year inspection of our water tower and our well 11, clear well, the inspection of those is due, so for the DNR. So we have a company coming to town to inspect those prior to the well. We have to drain it, clean it ourselves, so we'll be in there at the end of the month cleaning that. The next month I can include a report once I get it. It might be a month or two out before we see it, but I'll include that on the next month. Yeah, so it's a 150,000 gallon pumping chamber that they pump out to the distribution system. That and the backwash holding tank are required to be inspected every 5 years. So we have to drain down both of those, power wash them out, clean them, so that the company can come in, do a video inspection, picture inspection, and send the report to the DNR.
Okay.
Then the water sheet tower is actually every other inspection, so every 10 years we can do IVR, so we're sending in a robot to inspect that this year. We had it drained and inspected in 2018.
Okay.
So, that's all I had, unless you have questions for me.
The only thing I'd add, it's probably been a while, we had some scope of services quite a while back that we got into with the city for broader Eastport Commerce Center planning, and we, were in the middle of discussing and kind of designing the second pressure zone for the city. Because as we go east, the land goes up, which means our pressure drops. So we're gonna have to isolate a portion of everything on the east side of town, on the other side of some pressure reducing valves and some pumps, lift the head out there to 80 pounds or so, and then as we develop east, it'll fall off again. So it's kind of a unique thing that we're doing now that we've never had to do before, but, we're in the design.
Who's leading the charge on that?
The design is done by Rooker Milkie. The East Park Commerce Center effort is really, engineering, community development, utilities, collaborating to make sure that, you know, we're able to meet the needs of whatever big developer comes in. And that's one of the things behind that also is that rail spur that's going in. It was part of one of the referenda. So there's a rail spur going in out there too, and I have a feeling that when that's constructed, there's gonna be a lot of building out there, so.
Okay. Any other questions of Chris? Eric, I mean. Chris, you wanna go on to sewage, please?
Sure. Wastewater plant met all of our discharge requirements, for the month of February. You can obviously see we got a whole bunch of information for you, like normal, that you can look through. We were able to produce about 60% of the, heat that we that we utilized on site, with running the dryer and heating everything. It's kind of becoming our winter month, kind of steady state operation. Be able to produce enough biogas to heat about 60% of the need for heat in the facility. Other than that, things run pretty well. So, any questions?
Well, you've got, the department's got some awards recently. You wanna elaborate a little bit on that for those of us who might not know all of them?
Well, we're announced that the ACEC awards for 2023 are out, and we're one of the best of state with our dryer project, the dryer and garage project combined. In April, the end of April, there's a awards banquet that they're deciding on best of state. So we're in the running for that, being part of that. So that's good. It's a pretty cool thing.
And didn't we receive something for the sewage department too?
That's that.
Yep.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the same one.
Okay. Thank you. All right, construction and maintenance.
Yeah, Craig's not with us today, but the report is there. Very much winter activities, as you can see, and coming into spring. We do have some pretty early starts that they're hoping for the remainder of the Ridge Road projects. Tuchinski wants to get in there as soon as able. I don't think March, obviously.
Yeah, they had high hopes in the meeting last week. They're hoping to start scratching next week, but
Yeah.
I think with the snow, they're gonna probably be delayed a little bit.
June now, but yeah, so that's all.
Remind me where Ridge Road project is.
Just east of Green Avenue, over in there, north of 10, just north of Park Ridge, those curvy roads that lead to the other side of the interstate.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. Okay. And do you have anything in your report, Joel?
Just one thing, there was, some questioning about process for payment of claims by a commissioner on the Transit Commission, because they follow the same process we do here, and, led to a few conversations, and we may be adopting an ordinance that essentially takes, along with our minutes from this, takes the, payment of claims detail in the minutes, because as of right now, the payment of claims detail, as far as check number, vendor, and amount, don't go forward in the minutes. It's the abbreviated, stuff that they write out with starting balance. And one of the things that's come out of that is that different commissions who do their own payment of claims, we may start including those with the minutes so that when they get approved by council, they're technically visible. I don't expect anything to change at all. It's just a clerical, procedural type thing, so just thought I'd let you know. That's all I've got.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so a motion to adjourn is in order.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
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 All same sign. Motion carried.